Hey, and we're back. Welcome to the show. I'm flipping the sands of time today, Keith.
Well, we gotta reverse it then.
Well, you always flip it flippantly.
Flippiansly.
There you go.
Okay, we're back.
All right,
We're
here we are. It's another week.
Another week.
Another show.
Another allergies are full blast this week.
That's why you're talking nicely.
That's why I'm talking like this.
Nicely. Keith's talking nicely, and we're talking about the Holy Spirit.
We're week 2. We're going to talk about the Holy Spirit again. The most mysterious portion of the Trinity.
Yeah, kind of talking about like knowing, like head knowledge and heart knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can know about, you can believe in God. Mm-hmm. You can trust in the existence of God. Mm-hmm. You can know with your head of the probable existence of God and believe in that. Mm-hmm. And still yet not have had a spiritual encounter, possibly that gives you heart knowledge.
You know,
the Spirit of God.
This is going to be a terrible analogy.
I love analogies. I despise bad ones.
All right, you ready
Here
for
we
it?
go. Let her rip.
All right.
I don't really despise bad ones. I created most of them.
I look at it as like
I'm the AI generator of bad analogies.
I look at it as like your teacher in high school or like middle school, right? You spend all year with them. You feel like you know them. You know, they maybe share a little bit of personal information with you. Okay. You spend a lot of time with them.
Oh yeah, hours.
Right? Hours and hours and hours. And then like you're in Target and you're like, what? That's what you look like when you are, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you do wear sweats and a t-shirt sometimes, and I didn't know you had 3 kids, and you know what I mean? Like,
okay.
It's like that kind of stuff. Like you can know somebody, you can spend hours with them, but then when you disconnect, we had a really good teacher growing up, who very very intelligent, very intelligent guy, right? Taught English, and he lived on the beach, like on the beach, right? And so we, when we graduated out of this class or whatever, we realized, we're on the beach and we're like, yo, is that Mr. Hale? Whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we got to know him a little bit outside of class that way, and what you find out from people is just mind blowing, right? Like, because you have this relationship, and then when you meet them in a different setting, sometimes they're a completely different person, right? Because of professional setting and personal setting, right? And so I kind of think about that a little bit with
growing your relationship with God.
You can have a business relationship.
Starts out formal.
Very formal, right? Like I gotta go to church. I gotta pray. This is the prayer that I pray.
Starts out formal. He's your science teacher,
exactly.
Right? He's your science teacher.
Yep.
You're the student, and then all of a sudden, oh man, he's also your football coach.
And then he comes to your birthday party.
Yeah, and then he drives the bus on senior trip.
Yeah.
Can you tell I went to a tiny school?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, good analogy or horrible?
Not
analogy?
Not bad at all.
All right, high five. Bam.
High five for.
I think that's my first good analogy.
I love it. It, and especially for all our teacher listeners out there. Keith just compared you to God.
No.
So it's an official Teacher Appreciation Month.
Yeah,
it's May. School's ending. Take a break.
So, what is in that regard? My question for you would be, can you ever really know somebody fully and completely? You're married, I'm married, spend a lot of time with our spouses, right? Have shared things with our spouse we wouldn't share with other people, and vice versa, right?
Oh, I think we've had this conversation before.
Have we?
Not on the air.
On the air? Okay,
no,
great.
Not on the air.
All right, good.
No, I'm worried that we're going to have it on the air now.
I know, right?
So, you're asking me if you ever...
Can you really know them? Because you're not them, right?
That's
Like,
right.
you know
That's
what I
right.
mean? And so you feel like you've grown to know them.
You can know someone to the very open and honest fullness of the truth they're willing to share about themselves.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the finite end of it.
Yeah. Like, I know that if I came home and took my socks off and threw them on the floor, that's going to make my wife mad. But I wouldn't know that if I came to your house and threw my socks on the floor.
You should make some assumptions in life,
Wham!
especially if they're like stick.
Well, I'm not going to throw them in your room or something. Like,
Just stick to the floor.
no, I have a very bad habit of, so I don't wear shoes in the house. I don't know why.
You don't want to get your floors dirty.
Well, I mean, that's saying that my feet are clean though. Like, I'd rather go outside. I'm kind of a barefoot person anyways. Like the other day, I weed eated barefoot.
That's disgusting.
Why?
It's just so wrong.
To be barefoot?
so many
or to
levels.
weed eat barefoot?
The running the old string trimmer barefoot.
Yeah,
Like,
barefoot. It was a nice day. Shauna got the mower out, and I was like, "No, hold on a minute.
You're gonna
So-
need like a power washer to clean your feet."
I did. So Shauna normally does the mowing and the weeding and everything. We had dinner. We had a very nice dinner.
I think to answer your
And-
question, yeah, I think you can know everything about somebody. You just told me you
Weed
weeded
eat
without
barefoot, yeah.
barefoot.
You've never done that?
No.
And then afterwards, I
I have a hard time going outdoors without jeans.
Sprayed dandelions, with the sprayer barefoot.
Dude.
Yeah.
Not okay.
No, I made a path.
No.
To do, and then I
Not
came back
okay.
around. How's that not okay? I won't have dandelions on my feet.
Dude. This is public service announcement. Do not follow all the safety precautions in the MSDS sheets on all of your
Yes, do not do anything that I do.
pesticides. This is
I followed a path. It's okay. It'll be fine. We all got to die of something sometime.
man.
Anyway, coming back to it. Let's circle it back around.
May the Holy Spirit be with you.
May the Holy Spirit be with me.
Gee.
So no, I've had this prevailing thought my whole life, and that I can remember, which isn't very far back. In one of the, now I'm like, my philosophy teacher is like probably rolling over right now as I'm trying to remember, but one of the great theories of philosophy, right? So you have, so it's idealism. So you have realism, idealism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
in
Following.
an idealism, you get, I'm pretty sure it's Descartes, who goes through this complete like thing, right? Where he's like, okay, have you ever walked into a room?
Yes.
And smelled something like cookies or something, and you're like, "Ooh, that smells good. Who's making cookies?" And people are like, "No, we're not making cookies. I don't know what you're talking about, right?" So you smelled something that didn't exist, right?
Okay.
Or did you ever see something that wasn't there, right?
Yep.
So a great example: when I was a kid, watched Ghostbusters for the first time, went to go to bed, saw Slimer down the hallway coming at me, freaked me out so bad, I screamed, passed out, fell down the stairs. Okay. Obviously, Slimer was not in my hallway, right? So if you can see something, or you can smell something, or you can hear something, or you can potentially feel something that's not there, then you can't trust your senses.
Okay.
All this could be fake.
Correct.
Okay. But then what Descartes says is in the final, talking about existence, right? Like, well, how do I know that I exist then? If he says, I think, therefore I am, right? So because you can think internally, you can trust your existence, right?
Okay. Yes.
I look at it the same way as like my spouse. I'm not really sure I can trust her existence. In a weird way, that because you're not them and you can't be in their head all the time and understand everything that's going on, you can't really trust that you have a full depth of knowledge
Correct.
of somebody else, right? And that's kind of what we're saying.
That's great. So then you're just passing that on to which I love to use our worldly relationships as a model for our eternal relationship. So I think we can only get glimpses
Yeah.
of God,
Yep.
the goodness of God through our regular relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, if we use our minimal ability to understand our very human and finite relationships, project that onto our relationship with God, we have this very limited ability to understand our relationship with God.
Yeah, and I would jump to the conclusion, and this is going to be probably horrible theology, that you can
Here on layman's terms, no one's going to tell you that.
if you read the Bible, you read the Gospels, right? That's like in my thought process, that's like reading a biography. You can read a biography about JFK or Lincoln or whoever and get to know that individual a little bit, right? But that's not the end. That you can't then be like, "Oh, hey guys, I read a biography about Mitch here. I know Mitch." You don't know that person,
But you can make predictions
you can
about
make
me.
predictions about, you can kind of like maybe he would do this in this situation or
You
whatever
could
based off
you
the
could develop assumptions.
Yep. Critical thinking would go into that, right? Being able to read something and then, divine through the reading what an individual would do. But to really get to know God, to really get to know, Jesus is beyond reading the Bible about him. It's to your point, having the relationship that then deepens that over time.
All right. So do you fully understand the Trinity?
No. I think I said this last week. I feel like there's two things that you could sit your entire life and ponder and probably not come to a full grasp of what it means.
Yes.
One is the Trinity.
Yeah.
The second one is, I think, the crucifixion. So I think those two things, you can sit there and you can take it for face value, right? Like you can have a really routine understanding of, let's say, the crucifixion. Jesus had to die to then be brought back to, come back to life. Okay, yeah, that's a really like routine analysis of it, right?
It's like mathematics, right?
Yeah, 1 + 1 is 2.
Like you get into it early on and you're like, all right, all this, okay, I can see how we got here.
Yeah.
Right? But then to fully
get in there really deep and understand, like why he had to die that way, why, the understanding of, why couldn't God just come down and be like, yo, that's my boy, and then back up, right? Like, that was horrible theology. But you know what I mean? Like, there's a bazillion other things that could have happened that could have gotten that point across, right? So why, right? And just like, and I would say probably every year, once a year, I listen to somebody, whether it's our pastor or whether it's something else that I listen to, that just brings another facet to either the Trinity or the crucifixion. I'm just like, I need like a month to
Haven't
figure
thought
this
of it
out.
that way before. Haven't thought of it that way before.
You know what I mean?
Haven't thought of it that way before.
Yeah. And I just think those two things, I don't, if you, pro tip, if you ever meet somebody that's like, I got to figure it out, they don't. Stay away from them. Right? Like, I am, so we're talking about the Holy Spirit, right? And my layman interpretation of the Holy Spirit is, so God, the Son, Jesus, came down to God
Incarnate.
part God, right? Yep, totally. I can get on board with that after 40 some odd years of thinking about it. And then now that he's back in heaven, we get our interaction through this force called the Holy Spirit, right? And there's examples in the gospel of the Holy Spirit, Jesus showing the disciples, the Holy Spirit, right, when it came through the village and they all started speaking different languages and stuff like that, right? But you hear a lot in church, and you hear a lot about Jesus, you hear a lot about God, but I think rarely about the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, probably in our circle and context.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some denominations that probably talk a little bit more about it, right?
Yeah, way more about it. But yeah, it's something hard to, I think in our context too, just like you're speaking about, like thinking, like trying to understand with the head knowledge and the conceptualization of how all these cogs work together. Something as complex as this, we really just get baffled.
Yeah.
And try to focus on the things we think we can understand.
Mm-hmm.
So the creator aspect of God, like the genesis of all creation and how everything, pretty easy to get on board with the miraculous genius of an omnipotent creator that put it all in motion. But then the inner workings of the Holy Spirit within your life as a guide, a giver of gifts, at your giving you direction, at your will, like willing yourself to listen, to hear, to feel, to be influenced by, to be moved by and moved towards this force is, we have a hard time getting beyond the head knowledge of it and allowing ourselves to be influenced.
Now,
right?
Would you, yeah.
Is that where we're headed with this? Maybe that's the hard part. We have a hard time we have a hard time giving over control.
Well, I think when you're talking about your senses, sight, hearing, smelling, feeling, right?
Spidey.
Now, gut instinct, right? Like this other instinct of like, you hear stories of, I take this way home all the time. I just didn't feel right walking down this street or whatever, so I took a different street. Sure enough, there was somebody mugging people on that street, right? Like this gut, this really crucial instinct, not like, what should I have for dinner? But, this really crucial instinct. How do you define whether that's something that is just an innate character of perception and stimulus that's happening, a
subconscious algorithm of data collection that produces a fight or flight scenario,
or maybe the Holy Spirit working through you?
I don't think the Holy Spirit led the other people down the
alley
to get mugged.
No,
so,
but if you're not listening at the same time, right? The thing is that if you're, I actually had a really good friend in high school, that, uses this metaphor. And I'm sure a lot of people have used this metaphor before, right? Like he wasn't, a genius or anything, but, it's like God is like somebody knocking on your door. You got to open it up. First, you got to hear the knock, right? There's a lot of times where like our doorbell doesn't go off for whatever reason, and the kids are like trying to open the door. I'm like, what are you doing? And somebody's at the door, right? Well, if I didn't hear it in the first place, then I can't answer the door, right? If I'm not expecting anyone to come,
yep,
right, then I'm not really listening for the door,
Exactly.
And so it's got to be something that gets,
This is a metaphor.
my attention.
It's a metaphor for the day.
Right? Something's got to get my attention. It's got to be a loud knock at my door for me to open it up. And even then, I'm going to kind of peek out the curtain a little bit or look through the peephole, see who it is before I open it up. And then, after I've opened it up, I may not invite the person in or not. Right? And so, for me, it's not about what God didn't do for someone else or what the Holy Spirit didn't do for someone else. Because you don't, just go back to what we were talking about before. You don't know that person. There's no really way to understand, right? And so if you're not open to and have a relationship with God to begin with,
if you're not open,
you're not going to hear.
If you're not open
knock.
to the existence of God, if you're not open to His ability to interact with us on a human level, if you're not open to the continual possibility of influence by the Holy Spirit,
Yep.
you will be resistant to all those encounters and possible encounters that present themselves.
And I'm just going to
by
say,
being resistant to it, you're preventing.
Yeah.
Preventing.
And you may not think that you're resistant to it, right? And so, like, my biggest, what really makes me the most sad, right, is when somebody can't understand where you're at in having a relationship with God, and they've never had that relationship, and that either then they blame God for it, right? Or they're like, well, I tried, so you're crazy. You must not be. Like, I don't understand how to play the piano. I mean, I understand the basics of it, ding, 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 but I can't play the piano. I can't play a song. So when you hear somebody playing Mozart or Beethoven, there's no way that I could fully understand how they could sit down and do that. But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean without time and patience and maybe a little talent that I couldn't do it either. Right? And I think that that's what makes me the most sad and the most frustrated when talking to some people is that,
evangelistically, their roadblock to faith is a lack of faith.
Is themselves.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
The only roadblock to having amazing faith is a willful decision to not have any.
Hold on.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm with you. I had to backtrack.
I'm trying to process that.
I'm on
board. I'm on board.
I mean,
with you.
my thing is like you are your own worst enemy in every situation in life. You are your own worst enemy, right? Like, I mean,
unless you're getting chased by a bear or something.
Well, what did C-3PO say? Curse my immortal body. Like if I'm getting chased by a bear, I'm probably getting eaten. Let's just be honest. And I'll curse not going to the gym and learning how to run faster.
So you would have been your own worst enemy.
It would have been my own worst enemy in that situation, right? But you are your own worst enemy, right? The doubt, the fear, the hate, right? That comes from you. That doesn't come from anyone else. Right?
Yeah, your ability or inability to process it, metabolize it, get it out of your system, direct it, use
forgive.
It. Yeah.
See our series on forgiveness.
It's a good one.
Your inability to forgive, as you say, metabolize and process out those negative emotions, not to not have them in the first place, but to recognize that you're having them, process them out, and move on with life, is your ability to do it. And it has nothing to do with what happened to you or what somebody else did. It has everything to do with you.
Your ability, I think what you're saying is your ability to make those steps, to make those progressions, to process that, your ability to do that hinges on your ability to accept that you can't on your own without help from God via the Holy Spirit. So if you're unwilling,
or a licensed counselor can also help in some situations. Just if something bad happens, go see a counselor. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. But that's spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
When we're hung up on something, our roadblock is our lack of faith in God's ability in the situation, not God's inability, our lack of faith in the ability.
I think it's twofold. I think it's our lack of faith, right? Like Peter walking out on the water to meet Jesus, right? That lack of faith in that moment caused him to sink, right? I also think it's our lack of. I also think that it could be the other part is the lack of our understanding of God's plan, right? And that we may want something, but that may not be part of the plan. And so I think it's that twofold, right? You can feel you have all the faith in the world, and you could have all the faith in the world, but what you want still may not happen because of it doesn't fit the plan that none of us know about, right? And so I'm just like, I just think about people in my life that I run across on a daily basis who will claim that they're spiritual, right? I'm spiritual. I believe in existence, but I don't really know. So, well, I mean that's where faith comes in. So you're not really spiritual. You recognize that there's probably somebody, something,
some power,
right? But you're not hearing the knocking. Like you recognize somebody could someday come to your door, but you don't recognize that they're already there, And then I think that's the frustrating part for me is because you want to be able, and to circle it back, you want to be able to share with them your experience, but you can't because they can't know you like that. You know what I mean? Like they can't feel what you felt. They can't hear what you've heard. They can't see what you've seen. So you can try to explain it to them, but it just doesn't work, And dude, even trying to like explain it to some people that have felt it before is sometimes impossible because we can't experience what each other has experienced.
Hey, man, this is a way better discussion
than what was planned.
And the sands of time are running down.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there to digest. So
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it, and you can interject if you want. I'm gonna leave it with, if you're at a point where you're trying the faith thing out, right? You're going to church, you're reading the Bible, you're doing other stuff, but you just can't make this bridge and you can't make this connection. I'm gonna go back to my old one of the first podcasts, or one of the first is that you have to really spend intentional time in quiet, in peace, not with other things going on, not with a movie playing, not while reading a book, not while the kids are playing Jenga on the floor, right? Quiet time somewhere in peace, listening, right? And just inviting the Holy Spirit to come into the room, inviting that Holy Spirit to come and interact with you, and then don't do anything. Try not to think about anything, but just that wish, just that prayer, right? And that's all just do it. Do it. It's going to take more than one time. It's going to take more than 5 minutes. But do it and mean it from your heart. And I think that's how you start.
Increase your commitment. Lower your expectations.
Lower your expectations. I agree. Look at that.
Boom.
Time's up.
Time's up. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next week.